Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our first webinar of 2021. We ran some of these sessions in 2020 and got quite a lot of turnout. So we thought we'd kick off 2021 with another one again, and joined today by our friends from Aruba. Aria there, proudly sporting his Aruba t-shirt. So we're just waiting for a few to join. Obviously, it's been an interesting couple of weeks just here in Victoria. We've another lockdown, and thankfully we're just out of that now. So that's really good, back to normal again, and as normal as we can be in 2021. However, you know, it's good that the vaccine has started to be rolled out here, and don't boo me, please, like it's not the Australian Open, but I can tell you that my mum in the UK has had her first dose so far. Bill Gates has not taken her over. She is not a zombie, not yet, but I think we're just sort of waiting for critical mass to get there, just like this meeting now. So we've got about 25 attendees. We're waiting to get that up to about 40. So just to fill a bit of time here today, obviously COVID has accelerated the push to cloud over this last year. And I know a lot of you have already gone into the cloud in certain things like Office 365 and many SaaS applications. How do we get your network into the cloud? Well, of course we don't, but what we can do is put your management of that network into the cloud. And today we've got some really great speakers to talk about that. I'm feeling a little bit inadequate today. My name is just far too short. Far too short. It's just 8 letters. And we've got here today, we're joined today by the CTO of Aruba, Partha Narasimhan. I knew I was going to say this wrong, so I really do apologize. Aria Parsamanish and Sydney Ederera, who you all know. We've also got John Turco on the call there, who looks after health. Sid looks after education, and we've got Stuart Wilson here as well. So I'm not sure if any of you have been to Aruba Atmosphere over the last few years. I certainly have been to a couple of those events, and it's been really good, and always really look forward to the one of the keynotes by Partha. And Partha normally is a CTO for a fictional company. I think you've done cookies in the past, and he's often introducing and showing Aruba technology and how good it is, but also thwarted by Dan the Man, who comes in and unplugs a few cables and tries his best to make sure that it doesn't work, and whoa, it always does. So that's really good as well. Now today is a technical session. I know we have some non-technical customers on here, but it will sort of show some of the benefits that the Aruba networking and the Aruba central cloud can provide customers in that management piece, and especially around the AI capabilities and additional processing power that the cloud does have. So today is an interactive session. We're on Zoom. I hope you've all got your Uber Eats or it's coming soon. It is an interactive session, so please feel free to ask some questions down here in the Q&A or down here in the chat. I'll look at those and feed them through to the guys. So feel free to pop something in there at any time. So sit back and relax, have your Uber Eats, and I think we're ready to go with Partha. Now, Partha is the CTO of Aruba. I think you've been with Aruba for 19 years now, Partha.
Yeah.
You're a photographer, and you currently lead the team responsible for developing this technology. So we're just really looking forward to hearing what you've got to say. So Partha, over to you.
Thank you, Gavin, and the rest of the Trident team for hosting this and giving me an opportunity to speak to all of you out there in Victoria. I sometimes feel jealous that you guys are, way ahead of us in terms of returning to normal. I got a chance to catch some of the highlights of the cricket series between India and Australia. I mean, I don't get a chance much, and it's been years since I actually got anything in there. And this time, my nephew in India said, "You've got to at least watch the highlights," because they were all very excited in India about the victory at the GABA. But I also saw how life is actually somewhat returning back to normal. We are way behind on that front, and so I'm glad you guys have a better control on the whole virus situation.
And where are you, Partha, today? You're in Santa Clara, aren't you?
I'm here in California, yes, very close to Santa Clara, home. I've been home for almost a year now. I mean, I joke that I'm out on a plane in a hotel room somewhere in there every other week at a minimum, sometimes multiple times a week, and it's been a year since I saw the inside of an airport. So hopefully all of that changes soon. So I'm going to start my screen. Let me know when you can see my screen. Good. So today I thought we'll take a quick look at what we've been busy, and to some extent, the past year has been very, very different for a lot of us. Lots of changes in the sense that many of us here, at least I've been working from home, this particular desk, for nearly a year now. And some things are going to get better, right? Gavin mentioned the vaccine; it's starting to roll out here as well with good results. So I do hope, I'm optimistic that by the time the summer comes around, we can all get back to some of what we had at the beginning of 2020. But as I speak to customers, they do tell me that some things are here to stay, and some things, like there's some amount of work from home that is here to stay. Sometimes people will, many customers also tell us that they look at their current office space requirements and maybe realize, I don't need all of that, because if 40% of the time or 60% of the time many of my employees choose to work from home, then maybe I can rotate them in and reduce the amount of space in there. So there's a few things that are here to stay. And so we looked at Aruba, we looked at it and realized that the best way to address many of these changes is to is to announce what we call the Edge Services platform. Right? We launched it last year. Edge Services platform, the acronym ESP is intentional because we do feel like all the things that we've been doing, the ESP launch itself was a culmination of a multi-year effort, and all the work that we've been doing did provide the network with a sixth sense, right? So ESP, is a play on that acronym with extrasensory perception, because some of the technologies that we've added to the platform does allow us to give that sixth sense to the network. But before we get there, I thought I'll go backwards in time and take a look at the journey that we've had so far, right, as a way to, at least to allow ourselves to make sense for why we chose some of the directions that we chose to go through. So if you look at the evolution of network services, I'll start way back in 2002 when when we started Aruba, we made a bet that mobility was going to become extremely important to the enterprise, and Wi-Fi was the technology that was going to enable it. But because Wi-Fi was such a brand new technology at that time, it was an early adopter phase. It was more of a consumer technology. In order to bring it and make it acceptable for enterprise deployments, we had to solve a set of problems in there, right? Starting with how to manage RF, starting with mobility. Security was a big concern because, one, it's unlicensed spectrum, but Wi-Fi also broke the physical perimeter where the inside of the network is no longer trusted because now the signals from the inside leak to the outside. And finally, manageability, right? When you have a large geographically sparse network that has to appear as one seamless domain to end users, then how do you solve the manageability problem? And the way we solved it was to integrate multiple layers in there, right? We took the data plane, the control plane, and the management plane, as well as a policy plane from a security perspective, integrated that all into what we call the mobility controller, right? So that was the way for us to make it easy for the technology that was brand new to be adopted and deployed and and managed in there. So as we look at that, the mobility controller was one platform that if you start with one of them, it could in turn manage hundreds or thousands of access points on the other side. And then we innovated because as these networks started to get deployed, we encountered smaller environments like retail stores or small to medium businesses that didn't justify the cost of a controller platform. So we took the control, the software in the controller platform, virtualized it on a set of APs, and that's what gave us the instant AP. So this is where we really started with. The first big change happened as networks started to get deployed in larger numbers. Multi-controller deployments became the norm, especially it happened around the time 802.11n happened and it broke the 100 megabits a second barrier. We pulled out the management plane from the controller platform and the mobility controller platform and launched it as a separate software product called Airwave. Right? So Airwave launched as a multi-vendor network management platform, both for Wi-Fi as well as wired switching, but it also did Aruba and other vendor gear from other vendors as well in there. Right? So that was the first big change that we saw. The second one came when Steve Jobs went out there and launched the iPad. I mean, the iPad was more consequential for the wireless LAN industry, even more than the iPhone was. Right? The iPad was the first time it did two big things in there. One was it overnight transformed Wi-Fi from a nice to have add-on to the network to a must-have, because here was the iPad where the only networking interface it had was a Wi-Fi radio, right? So that was one. The second change that happened that quickly followed was the whole BYOD phenomenon, right? People started adopting iPads in their personal lives and then brought it into the enterprise and said, if it works really well over there, why can't I get some of my work done on this particular device? So we pulled out the policy plane out of the controller platform, launched it as a separate product called ClearPass, which was a rich policy definition framework for, policy management framework for different types of policies, different types of users, for example, right? Employees, contractors and visitors on one side, but also different types of devices, right? Enterprise owned devices, personal devices, and these days, lots of activity on the IoT front. So ClearPass allowed us to pull the policy management plane out of the controller platform in there. So that was a thing, and you're starting to see a trend over here, right? I said, Wi-Fi went from a nice to have to a must have technology. So overnight, that also caused us to realize that more and more customers giving us feedback that, uptime was important, but end user satisfaction with the experience was really what mattered, right? And to a large extent, the expectation from end users was just that, the network never went down. It was always available. It allowed them to do whatever they wanted to do whenever and wherever. And one of the ways in which we innovated to solve that problem was to pull the control plane out, right? A lot of the control plane and the services that were part of the mobility controller got pulled out into its own layer of software as part of AOS 8. And AOS CX on the switching side was again a brand new platform that was built with cloud native technologies in mind, right? So this was the iteration that caused us to look at always on networks, right? High availability was one. We looked at eliminating maintenance windows with features like live upgrade, where you could upgrade code on your network without any of the devices realizing this was happening or losing any of the connectivity in there, right? So that was a big change that happened a few years ago. And then moving forward, latching on to end user experience being the primary metric we need to optimize for. End user experience is a very subjective quantity, right? And how do you now get some sense around how well am I doing? And this is where we looked at telemetry data as an important source and invested in a lot of machine learning, AI technologies, brought in talent into the team, as well as migrate all these software products over to into a cloud native platform that allowed us to make it easier for customers to deploy and consume these products in there. So that's where we are right now. A lot of focus on AI ops, a lot of focus on cloud native technologies in there with Aruba Central as that console by which you interact with what we call ESP. So if you look at ESP, it's meant to address infrastructure solutions across a broad range of use cases, starting from remote use cases or home work from home, which is where we are and got amplified by COVID. But even smaller sites like branch offices or larger sites and campus networks, all the way into data centers and so on, right? But there's really three pillars in ESP that we look at. One is the infrastructure layer, which we modeled as one unified layer, irrespective of the medium of connectivity, whether it was wired or wireless, or the protocol under the covers, right? It could be Ethernet for on the wired side, or Wi-Fi primarily for connecting end user devices and a few IoT devices. But we also saw a trend with adoption of Bluetooth Low Energy or Zigbee and other IoT specific protocols. That is on the LAN side. As you fast forward on to WAN, at Aruba, we started building our own SD-WAN solutions, but also last year, one of the biggest things that we did last year was to acquire Silver Peak to bring in focus on pure WAN transformation driven motion, as well as what we did inside of Aruba, we call an SD branch, where you look at the connectivity from the branch as well as what is inside the branch as one single unit. Going forward, there's going to be a lot of focus on IoT. I mentioned a couple of protocols that we are working on, but also 5G, where we believe the success of 5G depends on how we can actually take what was inherently a carrier-driven solution, but take those technologies, combine it with enterprise-specific technologies, and make it useful for the enterprise side as well, right? In addition to carriers deploying them, can we make 5G accessible to enterprises so that they get more control over policy on these networks? The next layer up is what we call the zero trust security layer. We've adopted zero trust principles. I feel like we've always had those from the beginning at Aruba. The way we designed our architecture, it was around a trust nothing philosophy, right? We didn't trust our own access points. We absolutely did not implicitly trust any device or user that connected to the network. Everything has to get orchestrated through a layer of authentication and authorization for end users. But when you get to IoT, the traditional authentication methods did not work in it. So how do we extend those to add in a layer of profiling that was driven by machine learning and AI to not just figure out what type of device just showed up on the network, but also what kind of behaviors it is exhibiting as input into what kind of policy I should apply to that device in there. So security has always been an area of intense focus at Aruba, and it continues to be that way as the rest of the world discovered what we've always had, which is never trust anything implicitly when it's on your network, right? Figure out what it is or who it is, and then come in and apply a policy. The last layer is the one that's most interesting for us, which is leverage the telemetry data that is naturally available as part of the infrastructure, bring in advanced AI and machine learning techniques to transform network operations and security operations from being purely reactive to being more proactive and predictive and preventive as we move forward in there, right? So how do we now proactively address issues as they show up before it impacts end user experience or end user productivity, as well as can we now process that data and predict that if we don't make a change 6 months from now, there is going to be a bigger problem. So let's go plan to avoid that problem in the future in there. So a lot of focus on that in the past few years. The one that I want to also highlight is that location icon, because that's been an area of, again, a lot of investments in the past, and COVID actually highlighted the need to look at the network as not just making an impact in end users' digital lives, but also the physical world, right? With features that we released in the past year with contact tracing and providing visibility into how users are distributed in space, in physical space. I just thought I'll take a brief look at the journey that we see in there. Right? When we look at ESP, a lot of a lot of people that I speak to walk away with the notion that somehow ESP is tied to the public cloud. When we talk about cloud, the cloud to us is not a place. The cloud to us is the way we design, develop, and deliver solutions to customers in there, right? So when we look at ESP, ESP doesn't naturally mean move to the public cloud. ESP is something where we actually bring ESP to wherever you are in whatever way in which you want to consume our products and solutions in there. And I just wanted to take a quick walk through a journey that you look at. This is where most of our customers are today, right? You look at it and you say, on the wireless line side, it's chances are you're running AOS 8 and AOS CX or AOS switch. On the switching side, ClearPass managing your policy and Airwave managing your network in there, right? And a lot of it is sitting primarily on-prem. One of the first things we want to do is take everything that is running central in the public cloud as a service, package it up, and upgrade from Airwave into what we call central on-prem, right? So that allows you to bring all of the benefits of what we built from the network management side on and in ESP out into without disturbing anything else in your infrastructure. And along the way, we can turn on the AI ops service in the cloud to seamlessly work with the central on-prem that you've deployed in there, right? So in every step of the way, you'll see that we're changing one of these things. And you as customers, you get to choose which, where you want to do it, when you want to do it, and how you want to take part in this entire journey here. So when we add in AI ops in the cloud, so this is what we mean by on-prem anchored, because everything, the management layer is sitting on-prem, but we've kind of enabled a cloud service to work seamlessly with the rest of what you have. And the next part in the journey is where you might think about looking at upgrading to AOS 10 as a primary operating system, because there's lots of benefits that we've added, into AOS 10, where there's architectural cleanup that has happened. A lot of designs get simpler. The mobility controller goes away. Controller as an entity that manages APs goes away. The APs and the what used to be the mobility controller platform, the hardware is still valid, but it becomes more like a mobility gateway, and they become pure entities that are pure data plane boxes in there. And as you look at it, at some point when you get comfortable with this model, you could make a choice to migrate network management over to the cloud and consume it as a public cloud service in there. And at that point, the experience largely remains the same. The manner in which you consume the solution, the product, gets a little different. And for many customers, this morning I had a call with a public sector customer in the UK, and for them, this might be the state that they would end up with, right? Because they didn't want to trust everything in the cloud, and we could make some exceptions on how we handle the data in the cloud. But there are other customers that would make the jump over to, potentially adopting the public cloud, where network management gets anchored over into the cloud. And as a last step, we foresee a lot of customers also migrating the policy layer out into the cloud, right? So in all of these things, every part of the journey is available today. And as customers, you get to choose where you want to be and when you want to take the next step as part of this journey in there. I'll pause here for questions.
Okay, thank you, Partha. We've had a couple of questions come through. One, Ellie, yes, the recording will be available at the end. We'll be putting that onto YouTube. Look, one of the things I'd like to say, I've got a question here that's just come through about zero trust. So what is the global thoughts around zero trust? We're hearing a lot in Australia from different vendors, but what is the end user sentiment you are aware of in markets where it has been implemented more?
So zero trust, again, started with the principle that membership in a network or a network segment doesn't automatically give you any privileges, right? So if you go back in the early years of network design, network topologies was seen as a tool to implement policy. And it was okay as long as everything stayed local, but as applications started migrating over to data centers that were not at the edge or to the cloud or even to SaaS, a lot of the local segmentation and security principles as a primary motivator to enforce policy, that got broken, right? So essentially, decouple membership in a network segment away from authorizing you for access to certain use cases. That really is a fundamental principle behind zero trust. And we've always had that principle where, again, network membership in a segment, it doesn't automatically give you anything, right? The role-based access control in Aruba, I would even claim as adopting some of the early adoption of the zero trust principles in there. But at the same time, Sometimes I talk to people that actually think that, okay, just because network membership doesn't give you implicit access, then the membership and managing local access doesn't matter anymore. And that actually is the farthest from the truth, right? If you look at all of our home networks that we're working with today, if you look at my own home network, there's all kinds of devices that are on my Wi-Fi network, right? My sprinkler system is on Wi-Fi. I have a few light bulbs on Wi-Fi. My thermostat is on Wi-Fi. If I join my home network and want to get work done, it is not as controlled of an environment as you can create in at work in the office in here. So there is some degree of loosening up in there. So the edge membership in a segment doesn't automatically give me anything in there. It doesn't mean that I don't have to care about security at the edge, right? So security to us is always layers, and you don't eliminate any layers. You just simplify it, or you potentially add on many more layers to get visibility and more control over there. So, which is why we believe everything that we've done in the past still applies in the zero trust world, and you just have to layer on additional security layers in order to complete the overall solution to keep pace with how the attacks are morphing and getting very sophisticated. So all everything we've done at Aruba still holds true in the zero trust world as well.
Cool. And so just taking back on what you've just presented there, Partha, from what I can see, and just please correct me if I'm wrong, Airwave is sort of morphing into central on-prem, but at the same time, there is central cloud. So can I use both? Or have I got to pick one or the other?
No, it's a good question. So if you look at Central, Central started out as as a console primarily targeted towards network management in the cloud. So it started getting built with cloud native technologies, microservices and so on, right? The cloud native technologies give us arbitrary scale, agility, and the option to add on artificial intelligence, big data, machine learning processes, and so on. So what we've done is taken that same bits of software. So the other thing that happened is a lot of the feature richness of Airwave started migrating over to the central side. Once those two get close enough, then taking the software bits that run central, packaging it up and deploying it on-prem makes more sense, right? That gives us, again, it removes some of the scale limitations that we had with Airwave and so on, right? So we do have customers that are running both in parallel because they're trying it out and giving us early feedback today. We have a couple of dozen customers that have deployed central on-prem and are giving us early feedback to fine-tune the solution. But once central on-prem is ready for wider deployment, we do see that it will replace Airwave. There is no reason why you might want to run everything in there, because almost everything you can do in Airwave is going to migrate over, but migrate over onto a platform that gives you all of the advantages that I said, right? Scale, agility, and flexibility.
So are there any feature differences between central on-prem and central cloud, or is it mostly around the AI part?
Well, it's a central on-prem. So AI is very hard to do it on a pure on-prem based platform because it does require compute capabilities that increase dynamically up and down based on the amount of data that I need to process, right? So we do foresee a model where the AI ops, the AI engine itself will be anchored in the cloud. But once it generates insights for central on-prem customers, the way you consume those insights and the way you respond, take action, will be on the central on-prem device. The installation itself in there. So the differences between Airwave and central on-prem, those are converging. But the other reason why you might want to consider looking at central on-prem or even migrating over to the public cloud is the addition of a lot of these AI features that are very hard to fit into the Airwave platform.
Yeah, and from that same person who just asked that, how disruptive is it to migrate from, say, Airwave or central on-prem to central cloud?
That's a good question, right? And in the sense, the current beta customers that are testing it in there, we've kind of worked with them and watched those migrations happen and kind of gotten a fairly good sense for how to do this so that with the least amount of disruption in there. right? And we are probably getting close enough to where we understand how to do these migrations. Essentially, two things, right? One is historical data, and second, the telemetry stream that was going into Airwave now has to get over to the central on-prem in there. Many of the customers that are running the betas are running them in parallel, where the telemetry streams, two of them, one goes to the existing Airwave and the other one goes to the central on-prem deployment. But we do foresee a scenario where at some point you can, remove Airwave from the equation without losing any of the features or the workflows that you've gotten used to on the Airwave side. But now you also get the benefit of some of the AI features on the central on-prem side. So we want to make it as with the least amount of disruption, as smooth as possible to migrate from one to the other.
Yeah, cool. And in terms as well, there's another question there about pricing, but I think we're going to cover that off with Sid in a sec. So right. I'll leave Sid. Now we've got a technical question here. If you deployed step 5 cloud-based architecture in your slide, can you still run a tunneled network from the mobility gateways, i.e. the Wi-Fi users egress onto the mobility gateway, third-party enterprise firewall, rather than the Wi-Fi access points, locally connected switches? I reckon that's a question for Sid. Sid, you'll have the answer for that. No?
Yeah, I just don't want to show off, so I'll let either Partha or Arya handle it.
Oh, very good.
I'll take a crack at it, right? So the goal with AOS 10 is not to do away with tunneling, right? What is essentially broken is even in AOS 8, in any network that has mobility controllers and access points, the access points hierarchically fit below the mobility controllers in that chain, right? What happens with AOS 10 is that is broken only from a control plane and a management plane perspective, right? The data plane features still hold true. You can still use the mobility gateways in AOS 10 as the mobility anchors, get the access points to form tunnels into the cluster of mobility gateways in there. None of that changes on the data plane side. None of that changes in the way you've thought about designing networks, especially for large environments, right? So all of the data plane capabilities that existed in AOS 8 will continue to exist in 10. What will happen is the access points get managed directly by the software layer, independent of the mobility gateways, which again independently get managed in there. And then the whole tunneling mechanism can now be further simplified by bringing in some of the orchestration capabilities that we built as part of the SD branch solution at Aruba, right? So those will migrate over into AOS 10. So we do believe that without losing any of the capabilities, the potential to orchestrate something, the network design capabilities will get simpler with AOS 10. Hopefully that answered your question, right? So nothing changes on the data plane side between 8 and 10.
Partha, you stole my thunder. I was going to say exactly the same thing as you just said.
I hope that did answer his question. He's a potential Aruba customer, so hopefully, yes, he says it does answer the question. Excellent. I expect the order next week, probably. So, no, that's fantastic. Now, I just think just got a couple more minutes with you, Partha. I suppose we've got a lot of education and aged care health customers on this call. What would you say is the most the biggest thing that's either just come from the last year or is coming that's going to help these customers with Wi-Fi and with their networking?
Yeah, the pace of innovation has always been great at Aruba, right? And what we've done is the number of things that we've integrated in the past into the solution sometimes caused the adoption of these newer solutions and newer technologies at customer sites to slow down a little bit. And we want to actually get back to, because the rest of the world around us doesn't slow down for us, right? The need for newer use cases, newer features, and newer ways of addressing these problems, they keep increasing in their pace. So when that's the world we all live in, we wanted to make sure that as we create these solutions, we remove a lot of the friction in transferring the pace of innovation that we have at Aruba all the way out to getting adopted out in the field, right? So that's the reason why we went out, migrating a lot of the software products into a cloud native platform, removing deep features from the infrastructure products out into the layer of software that allows it to move at a different velocity, at a faster pace than the need to go touch network in infrastructure devices on a monthly or a quarterly basis in there, right? So that agility is what we are shooting for, and yet at the same time we want to do it without compromising any of the stability that we've created over the years, right? If you look at AOS 8 on the wireless LAN side or CX on the switching side, I would claim when it comes to edge networking, they are the most stable software stacks that are available anywhere in the industry. So we don't want to disrupt any of that stability, and yet we wanted to gain in the pace of adoption of many of the pieces of innovation that we come up with. And that is a reason for the cloud platform to get in there. And so that's what, if there is one thing that I want you to look forward to, that's what I would leave you with, right? Adopt these newer technologies, and you will get to a place where designing, deploying, and managing a network gets a lot simpler, and you're able to keep pace with the demands of your user base or your business.
Superb, superb. Thank you very much, Partha. Are we going to have an atmosphere this year, face to face, do you think, or?
Right now, I think the plan calls for no. We are planning for a digital one. I don't know about the second half of the year. If things get, exceed our expectations in terms of how quickly they get back to normal, I do want to have one. I'm not very happy with the digital format. I mean, we do the best we can, but nothing replaces the energy that you can derive from a live audience face to face, and more importantly, once we are on site at an atmosphere event, the interactions with customers. And that's what I miss the most.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, thank you very much indeed. We're going to pass over now to Aria, who's actually going to give us a demo of Central. So just keep everything crossed for the demo gods. Aria?
Yeah, sure. Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
And can you see the screen I shared? All right. So at the back of Partha's Prezo, so here I've logged into the Aruba Central, which is a live and production environment here. And so as I log in, the first thing you'll notice that when you log in, you'll see your map, and these would be based on your number of sites that you have. The first integration through AI is to be able to use your existing Aruba sensors or user experience indicator sensors to be able to directly integrate from Aruba Central to that to the sensor dashboard that you already have. So I've already opened it up here. So right now this shows that user experience have got some issues for this site, and when I go there, you'll see the various items that are not working as properly. So the UXI section, this is not a demo for UXI, just to show you that there's a full integration with that, so you can get all that alerts right in your Aruba Central. And I think Partha also mentioned that one of the core layers of the architecture is unified infrastructure. So here, basically, you can see that globally for this account, you can manage, monitor, alert, report your wireless LAN environment, APs, switches that are on the in Aruba Central, and you can see some of these funky looking icons showing that one is stack and yeah, CX and AOSS switches, and also you can see gateways. Now these gateways, they can, as Partha also mentioned, it can be these AOS 10 gateways or the SD-WAN or SD branch gateway. So it's one and the same thing. The same gateways can terminate or establish automatic tunnels to the head-end VPNC, whether it is on premise or in public cloud, Azure or AWS. Google Cloud is coming on in the next few releases. But yeah, so you have, basically with this, you should be able to manage all the three main infrastructure environments. And with the same thing, going back to, the firmware, the classic thing that when you want to manage your infrastructure, you want to make sure that your access points are of a particular version, and the system already knows what you have, and it already recommends newer firmware available, so you can already pick that up and let you do that. And it happens for the same thing as for switches as well. It picks up what you currently have and suggests what you should upgrading to. You can also set basically compliances, so that as you add your switches, there are of a particular version, so you can easily pick up the recommended version here, for example, and you say that I'm going to schedule it later, and you can pick it at any time. So all that is part of it. Now, going back to interesting bits of Aruba Central. Obviously, at this point, you can get to have a look at your WAN health. So these are the SD-WAN connections. You can look at your summary globally, and you can basically dice this into, chop it off into your sites or campuses or buildings. So there's a concept of sites that you can basically use that, and the view would be basically focus on that particular site. So here you can classically see the usage, number of clients, bandwidth for all your wireless LAN connections. Most importantly, which APs are being hammered most by usage, who are the top clients, how much data that they're unloading, and so on and so forth. Then we come to the Wi-Fi connectivity tab, which it starts basically getting making use of all the telemetry information that Partha kind of mentioned, and try to bring it up and provide an insight. So the classic things that in this case we are providing is 4 key indicators. How long does it take to associate? And this is Wi-Fi, right? So how long does it take to associate to an AP? Authentication, how long is happening? HCP and DNS. And here, by the look of it, it looks like authentication is not so happy, and DNS, it takes a long time. So these 4 indicators kind of boils down to when the users complain that, hey, Wi-Fi doesn't work. Yeah, it could be Wi-Fi, but it could be DNS, the HCP, radius authentication could be failing. So by just looking at this, you could see that, okay, so I've got this thing, so why DNS? So if I would have clicked on DNS tab, you would kind of see the connection problem by APs, but I want to know why a reason. So we could see that, yeah, there's some domain name that doesn't exist that these guys are going to, and so on and so forth. So basically here, it kind of, from all the insights, because we've clicked on DNS, we're just showing the DNS queries that are rejected or failed to reach a server. So yeah, let's click on one of that to figure out what's going on. And the main thing here is the AI insight, because I've gone directly to that tab, by the way. And as you'll go through this, you can get to the information through various means. And that is provided for the convenience and minimizing the number of clicks that you need to go through. Here, said that, yeah, so it's not only good to just tell you, the DNS is having issues, but it's even better if you can pull it down to which sites have been impacted, which DNS servers we're talking about. Sorry, I clicked incorrectly. Which sites have been impacted, which DNS servers we're talking about, and which APs are showing that behavior. So for example, the servers, they said that, oh yeah, So this one is my corporate. No, these two are my corporate DNS. Well, why they're using this? So kind of this shows that maybe the users have a static DNS entry here. So that is the inside AI inside of it. And this Friday, we're going to go and upgrade the Aruba Center to the next version, which brings a whole heap of new insights. Just to give you an indication of what you'll be seeing for the existing Aruba Central users. First of all, there's a full color-coded of insights. We've increased the insights by 4-fold. So here, there's various categories. We're kind of, in this case, we're showing that there's a coverage hole detected. So the system automatically picks it up and says that, hey, if you, we believe based on your settings and what we can see and some of the scenarios we're seeing from the clients, you have a hole, and the recommendation is to increase, the AP transmit power, for example, automatically, and tells you exactly where the impacted APs are, right? So, and the other interesting part is here, the outdoor clients are impacting with Wi-Fi performance, and a bunch of recommendations. So not only this doesn't work that, but no, on the performance side, there's a whole bunch of switches aside from the switches that says that, hey, there's more, the CPU has gone up, or unusual number of port errors directly on a particular switch. So all this, and basically some of the recommendations of how to kind of solve that issue. So once we go through that, let me, Partha also mentioned that location is pretty important for us, and part of that was proximity tracing. That is again available, part of the base feature sets of Aruba Central, and here it's the usage here is, if we have this unfortunate case of a person falling sick and reporting themselves to the staff saying, I don't feel well, and that kind of kicks off the manual contact tracing, right? So, and at that point you can the relevant person can come here and find out, okay, so the person who came here was M. Lin, and I want to know his contacts from 9th of February to 23rd, and trace the locations. It worked. So, so this person came in contact with these guys, and these are the minutes that are the overlap minutes, and the locations where it was connected to was these APs. Obviously, you need to name your APs based on location to get that information. Now, you can then download all that information through CSV, and you have that information to go by. So this is based on Wi-Fi. The second version of proximity tracing is based on Bluetooth, which is not directly part of Aruba Central. It uses Bluetooth tags, asset tags that we have, which will be given to every the user to be able to track it that way. So then last part, again, part of the AI ops of it, I just want to highlight is being able to really reduce the number of hours you spend with TAC. So you have an issue, you have opened the case with TAC, and you go through the whole triage, and they'll say, oh, send me this log, send me that log. But what if we could directly go to dynamic logs and find out what's the issue, and if the system would automatically collate the necessary show commands, logs, and make it available for you to send it to TAC. So this is what is AI Assist is all about, or a dynamic log. So here we kind of picked up that there's some issues with IPsec tunnels for the VPNC and SD-WAN. It looks like an SD-WAN issue, so we can just go to view it, and as it takes time, and yeah, so, and we have these two issues. And directly here, you see that dynamic logs, they've got some files that have been connected here. So if I click on that, you can download or email it. So if I download it, it basically goes to, let me email it. So if I email it, opens up in my other this thing, and basically it provides the customer ID, what the issue is, the output of a number of show commands, which would be available on this link, and for the tag to be able to basically download it and basically email it to them. So that itself would save at least a couple of hours of sending the relevant information to tag. So now another interesting things that we are doing with Aruba Central is natural language searches. For example, here we can say that, hey, I want to, these are some of my recent searches, basically, before the demo. I was trying some searches. So I just want to know the clients with that have no roaming issues, for example. It comes back and says, first of all, it gives me some links to the online documentations, but here, so let me check this, because it kind of says there are 4 clients that have excessive roaming issues, and you get these 2, and again, there are 4 clients that are impacted, and 7 of there are across 7 APs. So we'll go through and see who are the 4 clients that have impacted. I'll take the first one, Lynn, and suddenly you'll see that the context changes, and now you're looking at a particular user, and it gives you a visual that the client is connected to this SSID, to this AP and this switch. So, and everything is hyper linked, so you can kind of click on any of them, and the context would change into an AP or a switch. So here we'll see that, yeah, the throughput is okay, but signal quality is also not bad. But there is definitely on the roaming side is a little bit of high. We want to find out why this is the case. And when you go back to the AI insight for this user, and you want to see, okay, so this guy is roaming between what? Which AP? So here and there, you can find out that this particular user is roaming between these 2, and then you can basically look at his sessions, what the user is doing at that point in time, and some of the applications is being that is up to, and so just by a few clicks, you can have all the information of a particular user proactively, without even finding out at what time he was there, which APs and all that sort of thing. Last thing I'm going to show you, there's a bunch of things that can go through it, but I just want to show you this. I've gone to a particular site in this case, and let me go to the overall. And here, basically, I can see the overall health of this site, which has a few APs, a switch, a few gateways for SD-WAN, and it gives you the indication of change logs. If there were any reboots or firmware upgrades, it would be shown here. You can change the time frame here with from 3 hours to whatever you want to 1 day, 1 week of custom. And so far it says no issues. I just want to go and also show you the topology, which is pretty good, because for me at least, it gives me a good visual of what's going on. So let me just increase that a little bit. Yeah, so we can see that there's a switch, and there's got 4 APs connected to a switch. The switch has got 2 SD-WAN gateways. One of them are using LTE uplink to these 2 VPNCs in the head-end or in the data center. And as I click on any of them, I can get some more information on this side. not only the IP addresses, but also, you know, which tunnels are going where. If I, for example, click on this gateway and they show details, tell me, you know, what the model is, or if it is up, and by clicking there, I can just directly go to that location of where it is connected on that gateway. Similarly, on the switches, I can find out this lobby AB connected to this port 13, and yeah, so I can get to the visualization of it. And there's a full flow plan here as well. One other thing before I close up and look at the questions, if you had, is part of the Zero Trust, we also have full IDS IPS, not only on our, basically on our Wi-Fi side, which we had it from day one, but also on our gateways. So in that particular case, we had a couple of branch gateways there. This one now picks up a number of threads, and all of them are DNS. So let me just click on that. And yeah, it says that, let me click on this eye to find out more information. And yeah, so it basically says that, yeah, there is a DNS query to .cloud top level domain. And you can do a packet capture here as well to find out what's going on. But yeah, so clients that are, source is that, clients that are querying this particular domain, which is not right, because .cloud is a classic signature that is already flagged here. So you can, most importantly, you can packet capture it right here. On the virtual gateways for the people who wants to kind of migrate or they're thinking of migrating to cloud service providers, there's a full orchestration that is available for AWS and Azure. In a next release, you would also see Google Cloud here as well. Yeah, so it's as easy as add your IAM account of AWS or Azure with a number of more information like your tokens, and the full connection to be made. Our gateways are already in AWS and Azure Marketplace, so you can easily pick that up. And that was it. I had 10 minutes, I think I'm within the time limit.
No, you've gone way over, Aria, but that's
okay.
That's okay. Look, obviously what we're saying here is that Central is a full-featured product, a great way to manage your network. If you are just a single site, it works perfectly well to manage switching and your Wi-Fi. And if you are running multiple sites, like many aged care providers are, then you can manage all of your aged care facilities from the cloud. And that's exactly what we have been doing with a number of our aged care customers, and a project that we've just rolled out with one with about 10 or 11 sites. And as we've added each site and upgraded them with their Wi-Fi, we've just added all their APs into Central and all their switching as well. And it's now centrally managed, so it's fantastic. And I think we've just literally got a little bit of time here to bring in Sid, who's got an offer. Yep. Sid, I think you've probably got about time to say it's free or something like that.
Yeah. So Aria's stolen all my thunder. So we've actually resurrected a program we had last year, which was quite popular, which was if you've got a valid maintenance agreement with us, we will for free of charge, we'll take you over to Central. And that promo runs till the end of May. So if you're interested in Central and you wanted to change from Airwave to Central, there's a free path for you to take. And you can talk to your Trident representative and we'll make it work in the back end. Just two other things. If you do want to, there's Atmosphere, as Gavin was saying, coming up as well. So we're doing a virtual Atmosphere this year, and it's from the 14th and 15th of April. For those who are interested, please come along. You'll hear Partha at Atmosphere, and I know there's a lot of content going into that this year. So I know it's going to be very successful. And one other thing, and I know a lot of people have asked for training on CX. We're running at the end of this month. We're running a CX training, hands-on CX training on both sides of the Yarra. So this side of the city and the other side of the city, we have realised that there is another side to the Yarra. So we are going to run training on both sides of the city, free of charge. So please come along, and look forward to the invitation from your Trident representative. Yeah, so take up the free offer, and if you want to try any of the software, please feel free to reach out, and we'll get you the software and the subscription to go along with that. Thanks again.
That's awesome. Thank you, Sid. And look, one of the great things about Aruba as well is the support network of airheads, and we've got airhead number 1 with us today, Partha. So thank you very much, Partha, for joining us from America, and probably time for your dinner now. Thank you, Aria, for the demonstration, and thank you, Sid and John, for joining us and for helping to organise this. We hope you found this useful. It will be put up on a YouTube channel that we have, and we'll probably follow up with a bit of feedback survey from you, just to make sure that you've got as much out of this as you possibly can. Thank you very much, and hope you have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.